Israel, not for the whole world, for Israel specifically. Okay? Daniel's 70th week of years is for Israel specifically, literal, in your face Israel. Okay? Now the believers are a spiritual Israel. But God does speak specifically to literal Israel. All right? And made the promises literal Israel. Okay? They're very important in this equation. So, we know the trib has to start this year. It has to. Because we're out of time. He's waited until the very last minute now. He has. He's already waited till the very last minute. All of 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 are trib time. Okay? Now, if he backs it up and the trib starts, let's say it looks like it's going to start summer of this year, 2014. Then it would wrap up in summer 2015, around there. Okay? It's 7 years. Now, that way it would wrap up kind of halfway into 2021. All right? But it is going to start this year. It says the generation is 80 years max. It says between 70 and 80. And if the trib doesn't start this year, it can't wrap up before the end of the 80 years in 2021. This is it, okay? This is it. He's coming this year. Now, whether or not we're going to be able to figure out exactly when is up to the king, okay? But he says, and you, brethren, shall not be in darkness, that day overtake you as a thief. If we're watching and praying, which we do, we watch and pray every single day. And I know you guys do too, because you're here doing it with me. Okay? He's going to show us. And so every single scriptural possibility that we come across, we need to react as though it is the real thing, because it is going to be the real thing at some point very soon. Now, the reason this particular obscure Tu B'Shavat feast is interesting to me is because of its position and its timing and the things that are accompanying it. Now, if it's all by itself, then it doesn't really mean much. Because it comes every year, all right? But if you start putting all of the elements together, such as that the trib has to start this year. Now, and let's talk about, it has to start at some point this year, because if it doesn't start in 2014, the trib can't wrap up before the end of the generation. So we have the tetrad. That is a definitive marker. That's a confirmation right there. See, that's a constant. It's not up in the air about whether or not the tetrad will be here. It's going to be here, and NASA's the one that we get that information from. It is going to be here, and it is coming. And that's signifying the start of the trib. So we need to expect it in the past, when we've had these tetrads show up, the event that it is signifying thus far has always happened between those first two blood moons. You had the blood moons in 67 and 68. You had the blood moon in the spring, you had the event in the summer, and then you had the blood moon in the fall. That's what's about to happen now as well, I think. You have the blood moon in the spring at Passover. You'll have the treaty sign that starts the trib in the summer, and then the second blood moon in the fall. Fall right between those two blood moons, if the pattern remains consistent to what we have seen in the past. Okay? Now, that gives us an idea. Then, let's add another element that kind of builds on this. Then we've got Pope Francis, who God has graciously helped me identify as the Antichrist. He is going to involve himself in these treaty negotiations into May.
Palestinian and Israeli leaders joined Pope Francis in prayers for Peace Sunday at the Vatican. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Israeli President Shimon Peres accepted the Pope's invitation to join him in prayers for the Middle East. And while he stressed he didn't intend to mediate the two sides, the Pope gave a strongly worded speech saying peacemaking calls for more courage than warfare. The ceremony at the Vatican incorporated Jewish, Muslim, and Christian prayers, with Francis seated between the two sides. A BBC analyst says this is the Pope's way of improving peace prospects. He hopes that the prayers in the calm of the Vatican gardens might just improve the atmosphere between the two sides. For Pope Francis, the power of prayer has the capacity to change everything. PBS points out this meeting takes place just weeks after U.S.-sponsored peace talks collapsed between the two countries. The prayers given at the ceremony focused on thankfulness, forgiveness, and desire for peace. For Newsy, I'm Jay Struberg.
Okay, let's add something else onto it. Because that doesn't really sound very significant initially, does it? Well, so what if the Pope's going to go get involved in the negotiations? Well, it's a huge big deal, because the Antichrist is unlike anybody the world has ever seen before. The Antichrist is going to be supernaturally empowered at that point. So he is able to get it done his very first shot. The very first time he involves himself in it, he's going to get a treaty signed. Okay? It's not going to be like all of these other diplomats that have been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with no results for 20 years. When the Antichrist goes to the Holy Land to get something done, he's supernaturally empowered and he's going to get it done. And that's why they consider it a miracle. Because he goes, he gets involved, and it's done. Isn't that what they expect of their Messiah? Yes, it is. That's what they expect of their Messiah. That his presence will have miracles associated with it. And this will be a huge miracle. Okay? He's going to get it done the very first time he sets out to do it. So, that tells us, since the Pope is going in this between these two blood moons, that's when it's going to happen. That's when the treaty is going to be signed. So, given that, we have 5 months. Between now and when the treaty is going to be signed, unless the Pope postpones his visit. And I wouldn't count on that. I wouldn't count on that at all. Okay? I don't think he's going to postpone his visit. But that's a fluid element that we would have to consider if it did happen. Okay? So even with all these pieces adding up, I'm never going to be able to say positively, this is it, we're leaving on this day. I'm never going to be able to say that to you. And not that I'm aware of, I don't expect to be able to pin it down to a day or an hour, because the word says you can't. But he says you will know the season. Well, the season is the summer when the treaty is signed. And so we do know the season. Now, since there's only 5 months between now and when the treaty is signed, we have to fit all of these other events that we know happened first, before the treaty's signed, into this 5-month period of time. Now, keep in mind, the rapture is an event unlike anything anyone has ever seen or experienced that is living on this planet right now. We've never seen or experienced anything like it, even though it has happened in the past. nobody who was there back then is still here now. So it's totally alien to us. The rapture, of people just being caught up into the air. That's never happened during any time that our generation has been here. So it seems crazy. But that's why God's credibility is so important. If you don't believe what God has to say, you're never going to believe it. But if you consider him 100% credible, and if you do your homework, you'll find that he is 100% credible, then you believe him and you believe it happened because he says so. And you can expect it based on his credibility, his word alone, and not by our own experiences or historical references. Because you're not going to find any historical references that talk about the rapture except for the Bible. They've wiped it out. They don't want people to know. Now, so we've got to fit all these events within 5 months. Well, something else is really important to remember about the rapture. It's going to freak people out so hard, okay, that they're going to kind of go nuts. You're going to have looting, rioting, total chaos. Martial law will be declared, and the Antichrist will step up to try and restore order somewhat. Okay? And he will be really good at that. He will have all the answers that people want to hear, and he will be able to restore order, some kind of semblance of normalcy, okay, of normalcy. Because keep in mind, the rapture can't happen a week before the treaty's signed. Because nobody is going to care about the stupid treaty when they've just lost their children a week ago. Just lost their children, just lost their money, their security, their freedom. They're not going to care about what's going on with the treaty. But when this treaty is signed, we know that the whole world rejoices. The whole world rejoices and says, yay, peace, safety, yay, yay, yay. They're happy about it. They rejoice when the treaty's signed. The whole world celebrates it. There has to be, what that means is that there has to be a period of time between the rapture and the treaty being signed, a sufficient length of time for the people to kind of get numbed out and adjusted to what has happened in the rapture. So they need a couple of months. I would think a minimum couple of months to quit freaking out and, grieving over their kids to the point where they can rejoice and be happy about this treaty. If I lose my kids, you're not going to find me jumping up and down rejoicing over some stupid treaty a week later or a month later. I think they're going to need a few months. Okay? The people are going to need a few months to kind of get over the rapture, to get it, they're going to have to kind of numb out to what happens at the rapture. Remember, you've got devastation on a global scale. Damn. In addition to the children being missing. Then you've got a global economic meltdown. Then you've got the fall of the sovereign governments. The rapture triggers this triple whammy to where people just lose everything. Now, how long do you think it would take between losing your children, your money, your security, your freedom, between losing everything and being able to rejoice on a global scale when this treaty's signed? There's got to be some time between these two events. And not just a week. I mean, can you see what I'm saying? That if the rapture occurs, the whole world is not going to be celebrating the treaty being signed the very next week. The whole world is freaked out at that point. Okay? What are you doing, Troy? Do you follow me? Oh, my voice matches now. Rock on. Thank you, my king. You're so good. I love you. Mwah. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. He says my voice matches the video now. Simple things just bring me so much joy. You know what? Such as my audio and video matching up. That just tickles me pink. Okay? Glory to the Lord. Now, does it make sense to you, Selena? When people lose their children, their money, their security, their freedom, it's going to be a little bit before they can rejoice over some stupid treaty halfway around the world. You follow me? Because the whole world's going to rejoice about this treaty. So that tells us that there's 2, 3, 4 months, maybe, between the two events. When that brings us to the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about. Now, Selena says, it feels in the spirit for me that we are going soon. It just seems so right to have it now. Yes, see, there's got to be some time between the rapture and the treaty signing. We know that the whole world rejoices when the treaty's signed. The whole world mourns and freaks out at the rapture. And those can't be, real close together. You can't be ready to kill yourself one week and the next week rejoicing like it's the greatest thing that has ever happened to you. All right? There's just got to be, it just seems like there's got to be some time, a few months in there. Because as 3 or 4 months goes by, then people, can kind of numb out to the rapture and start looking forward again and be happy about the treaty. Okay? So, here we are with 5 months from right now between now and the treaty. Now we know there's got to be a few months in between the rapture and the treaty. So, that's one indicator we need to take a look at. Another indicator we need to take a look at. Herein is about to die. Kaduri's prophecy said that the Messiah would come after Herein dies. Well, that's not the Antichrist, because the Antichrist is already here. Okay, he's already here. It's not the Antichrist he's talking about. The Antichrist is already here and on the scene. He just hasn't been supernaturally empowered yet. The Pope's here. The people know that. They're not, So, the Antichrist is already on the scene. And he says that the Messiah will come after the death of Herein. And he said the Messiah's name is Jesus Christ. Okay? And because, see, the word says, beloved, test the spirits. Let's test Kaduri. All right? Let's test Kaduri. Let's go to 1 John. The word tells us to test the spirits. Let's go to 1 John chapter 4. Are you ready? We're going to read the test of the spirits. Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets are gone out into the world. You have to try these spirits. Test them. Find out what side they're on. Hereby know ye the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesseth that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is of God. The Antichrist, he doesn't focus on Jesus coming in the flesh. They think Jesus is a little wafer, a cookie. All right? They think that God is all spirit, that he doesn't walk around in a human body. Israel has never acknowledged that Jesus was the Messiah. They've never acknowledged that their Messiah came in the flesh. That's why they're not, that's why we have the test of the spirits here. Okay. Okay, Troy's going to take us to a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
See you